A man believed by many to be the perfect example and a champion for women's rights and minorities marries his daughter-in-law. If that weren't enough, while he's still in his 50s, he marries a 6-year-old girl. Who am I talking about? None other than Mohammad, the man believed by over 1 billion people today to be the last and final prophet. Hi, welcome back to the Rooted Ministries podcast. We're so thankful that you come in for these podcasts. You know, every week we try to alternate. 1 week we're going to talk about biblical topics, and then in the next week we're going to talk about other issues such as Islam. That's going to be a big one, and apologetics. Today we're going to be talking about Islam, and as you could hear from the intro, we're going to be talking about the not so well-known things about the Prophet of Islam. But just want to say at the beginning, we're not here to simply tear down Muslims. Instead, we're here to talk about the things that Muslim teachers don't really like to talk about what the Islamic sources actually tell us about Muhammad. And hopefully in the process, not only have Muslims come to a knowledge of the truth and escape from this deception, but also to have Christians see it as well, and to know at the very end how to share the gospel. And so if you're a Christian and you're listening to this, I encourage you to stick around to the end, because we're going to talk about ways to share the gospel with Muslims, or how to react to these things today. I'm here with Harry. How you doing, Harry?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. You know, today is March 1st, 2026.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning and I heard about Iran. Did you hear anything about that?
Yes, I have heard about Iran.
Yeah, I was just so happy when I saw that news. I mean, and it really is a time to be praying for Iran, praying that they have godly leaders come into power at this time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, one of the things that needs to be said about Iran is that this wasn't an overnight thing where they suddenly wanted to change their religion or their government.
Yeah.
It's actually been a long time in the making.
Yeah.
Of the churches in the world,
Uh-huh.
one statistic that I remember hearing is that Iran has the fastest growing church in the world.
Okay.
And that is a big reason why you see the unrest going on there. And while God's been doing miraculous things, doing things through dreams and whatnot, one other thing about about Iran is they became familiar with what the Islamic sources teach about Muhammad. And so just like last time we talked about the Quran and debunked the myth that there's only one Quran,
Yeah.
today we're going to be talking about Muhammad.
Okay.
So one of the big problems today is, well, we see the church growing so fast in Iran. It seems like places in the West, like the UK and even in the US, they're not really familiar with these things. And as a result, while the church is growing in the Middle East, it seems like Islam is growing in Western nations.
Yeah.
So that's probably what you've seen as well.
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
So when it comes to Muhammad, have you been made familiar with some of the stories concerning him in the Islamic sources?
Yeah, many stories are there about Muhammad.
Yeah. One of the interesting thing about those stories is that you'll never really find out about Muhammad from the Quran. It doesn't talk about him. In fact, it only mentions his name 4 times in the Quran.
Exactly, yeah.
But it all comes from the hadiths.
Okay.
And one of the most famous hadiths is Sahih Bukhari. Now, they like to say Muhammad was a prophet, but according to Sahih Bukhari, Muhammad thought himself to be demon-possessed.
Okay, yeah.
Now, Sahih Bukhari, I don't know if you can read this, but would you like to read this hadith?
Yeah, narrated by Aisha. Once the Prophet was bewitched so that he began to imagine that he had done a things which in fact he had not done. Sahih al-Bukhari 3175.
Yeah, so Well, people like to say Muhammad was the inspired prophet of God. Muhammad didn't believe that about himself. He actually, at the very beginning of his ministry, thought himself to be bewitched under a curse.
Yeah.
Now, there's another hadith. Do you want to read this one too?
Sure. Narrated Aisha that Allah Messenger was affected by a magic so much that he used to think that he had done something which in fact he did not do. Shahi al Bukhari 6391, Book 80, Hadith 86.
Yeah. Now, these hadiths aren't just poor hadiths. Some people say there are strong hadiths and weak hadiths. But of the hadiths, Sahih Bukhari is one of the most reliable. It's one of the very first. So we've read 2 hadiths from Sahih Bukhari.
Yeah.
Now, this third one comes from the Sirah literature. Sirah literature is the biography of Muhammad. This is by Ibn Ashaq, one of the best writers of Sirah literature, page 106.
Okay. So now, none of God's creature was more beautiful, hateful to me than a poet or a man possessed. I could not even look at them. I thought, woe is me, poet or possessed. Never shall Quraysh say this to me. I will go to the top of the mountain and throw myself down, that I may kill myself and gain rest.
Yeah, so according to this hadith, Muhammad not only thought he was demon possessed, but so much so he was so disturbed by what was happening that he tried to kill himself. He planned to kill himself. He was as I've heard some people say, the suicidal prophet. He wanted to kill himself according to the Islamic sources. Now, another thing that they often push in the Western nations is that Muhammad was a black man.
Okay, I have heard those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we laugh about it because one thing you should know is Arabs aren't really black.
Yeah.
They're a little lighter in the skin tone. But anyhow,
Yeah.
along with this, Muhammad had slaves. According to Jabir reported, there came a slave and pledged allegiance to Allah's apostle on migration. He, the holy prophet, did not know that he was a slave. Then there came his master and demanded him back, whereupon Allah's apostle said to him, "Sell him to me." And he bought him for 2 black slaves. This from Sahih Muslim, 1602, book 22, hadith 154. Now, we're not just giving you a single one. This is the second one.
Narrated Abu Huraira, Allah Messenger had a slave called Midam.
Yeah, tough names to pronunciate.
Yeah, it's tough.
This one here is also from Sahih Bukhari. I believe it's 7263. Now, this is talking about, so far we've looked at Muhammad didn't believe himself to be a prophet.
Okay.
He thought himself demon-possessed, tried to kill himself.
Yeah.
Muhammad owned slaves. He was not a champion for black people, not in the slightest. And along with that, we read about his treatment of women. Now, I'd like to ask you, Harry, have you ever heard about Aisha's age when Muhammad got married to her?
Maybe 9, 10, maybe.
Okay, yeah, some people have argued about it. Some say 6, some say 18.
Okay.
And some others say she was a little older. We're going to look at what the Islamic sources actually say.
Okay.
So I'm going to read this one.
Okay.
It says, narrated Aisha, so Aisha's telling the story, that the Prophet married her when she was 6 years old, and he consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old. Hisham said, I have been informed that Aisha remained with the Prophet for 9 years, i.e., till his death. So this is Sahih Bukhari 5133. And that whole thing about Aisha marrying him at the age of 18 is a myth. Muhammad died when she was 18. She was married to him for 9 years. As we're going to see from the next one, actually, she got married to the Prophet when she was 6 years old, pledged to be married to him. But then he laid with her when she was 9 years old. And that's what this next hadith tells us. Narrated Aisha, again, Aisha. The Prophet engaged me when I was a girl of 6 years old. We went to Medina and stayed at the home of Bani al Harith bin Khazraj, what a name. Then I got ill and my hair fell down. Later on, my hair grew again with my mother. Ruman came to me while I was playing in a swing with some of my girlfriends, so she's a little girl at this point. She called me and I went to her, not knowing what she wanted me to do. She caught me by the hand and had me stand at the door of the house. I was breathless. Then, and when my breathing became all right, she took some water and rubbed my face and head with it. Then she took me into the house. There in the house, I saw some Ansari woman who said, "Best wishes and Allah's blessing and good luck." Then she entrusted me to them, and they prepared me for the marriage. Unexpectedly, Allah's apostle came to me in the afternoon, and my mother handed me over to him. At that time, I was a girl of 9 years of age. So this is again Sahih Bukhari, Volume 5, Book 58, number 234.
So it also says here his mother handed him over to that prophet, no?
Yeah, her mother handed her over to him. Yeah.
That's so sad, I think. Very sad, man.
Yeah. And so when we actually read the Islamic sources, these are the things that we find. Muhammad was like a cult leader. Cult leaders oftentimes take advantage of women, and that's exactly what Muhammad was doing in his calling himself an apostle. Calling himself an apostle. I'm forgetting how to talk. But anyhow, about this, one thing that you'll notice, you can see the prophets, his being driven by lust. It says that
Exactly, yeah.
he was engaged to the girl when she was 6.
We can't even think. Like, I mean, if you'll ask me about 6, I mean, we can't even think about 6-year-old girl.
Yeah, it's so disturbing, and
So much disturbing.
it becomes even worse when you think about Muhammad's age being 54 at the time. Now, the reason he didn't marry her right away, though, you see, I was engaged to be married when I was 6, but then I got sick and my hair fell down. He didn't want a girl without hair. So later on, my hair grew again, she says, and that's when Muhammad came and he laid with her. At that time, she was 9 years old.
So bad.
You know, now, I don't know what you would call people here who have sex or that lay with 9-year-old girls, but in Western culture, we call them pedophiles.
I mean, here I don't know what they'll say, but if this thing happen, people will like kill that guy. Immediately they will kill if they see these things here.
Yeah, it's very disturbing and it's very shameful. And that's what we see being reported to us in the Islamic sources.
Yeah, here also they'll say he's a demon possessed. I mean, how he can do this to a small girl? How he can even think like he wants to marry this girl? Like, so disturbing.
You know, one of the big problems that I've seen is that whenever I go into mosques, no one there has a Quran except maybe the Imam or the Mulana.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, even they don't read from the book, the Quran.
Yeah.
Instead, they just talk. They talk nonsense.
Exactly, yeah.
And where you have ignorance, in that sort of environment, Islam spreads.
Exactly.
And that really has a lot to say about Western culture. The reason Islam's spreading is because those people are so ignorant. They're either ignorant or they're purposefully ignoring the truth about what the Islamic sources tell us of Muhammad.
Exactly. I guess these people are also just a puppet of these Maulanas and these Imam. Whatever they say, these people just obey them. They don't want to read. They don't want to do investigate these things. They should do it.
Now, some people might be protesting at this point, like, man, you're being really hard on Islam. Actually, this is the most loving thing you can do. Have you ever been punished by your parents?
Exactly. Many times.
Now, your parents don't find enjoyment when they punish you, but they do it because they love you.
Exactly.
And that's the same way with our reading this today. Not to destroy or slander Muslims, quite the contrary.
Exactly.
We want to see them escape this deception and come to know God.
Yeah.
Proverbs 22:5 comes to my mind. Says, better is open rebuke than hidden love. Here's another one. According to the Islamic sources, Muhammad didn't just marry a 6-year-old girl, but he also married his daughter-in-law, or his daughter-in-law named Zainab. Took her from his son-in-law Zayd.
Zainab.
Yeah. Now, when he did this, just like you said, Harry, people got upset. They were thinking, a man married his daughter-in-law. That's shameful.
Yeah.
According to the Islamic sources, it says people commented when the Prophet married Zainab bint Jahsh, who had been married to Zayd bin Haris, sorry, these names, Haritha's wife, the adopted son of the Prophet. They said Mohammad married his son's wife. That's Tafsir Jalalain, 1461.
So Zainab was his son wife, right?
Yeah.
Muhammad's son's wife.
Yeah.
Son wife. Okay.
His adopted son's wife.
Adopted son. Okay.
And then he saw her and lusted after her. And as we're going to read, that's when suddenly Allah spoke to him and tells him he can go ahead and marry her. It's amazing. Allah just makes Muhammad's wishes come true.
But I guess in Islam, other can't marry more than 4, right?
No, they can't. But not for Muhammad. He can have more.
He had, I guess, 11 or 12.
I think 11. I might have to look it up again, but I think he had 13 in his life.
Wow.
It's one of those things. Muhammad gave words from Allah, true for you, not true for me.
And these people say, oh, he was so good prophet. He married only widows and whose husband used to left them. He used to marry those girls.
Yeah. Now back to this concept of Aisha, we're going to see what Allah says to him.
Yeah.
It says, and remember, O Prophet, when you said to the one for whom Allah has done a favor, and you too have done a favor, keep your wife and fear Allah, while concealing within yourself what Allah was going to reveal. And so you were considering the people, whereas Allah was more worthy of your consideration. So when Zayd totally lost interest in keeping his wife, we gave her to you in marriage so that there would be no blame on the believers for marrying the ex-wives of their adopted sons after their divorce. And Allah's command is totally binding. That's chapter 33, verse 37 of the Quran. If that verse was a little much for you, just to explain. So, Muhammad didn't want people talking about him, saying that he married his daughter-in-law. So Allah revealed this word to him, saying, you fear people more than me. I'm giving her to you. And so that's when Muhammad gave this word from Allah. And Zayd, actually Zainab's husband, saw that Muhammad liked his wife, so he divorced her and gave her to Muhammad. And then Muhammad, it says at the end, verse 37, we gave her to you in marriage so that there would be no blame on the believers for marrying the ex-wives of their adopted sons after their divorce. In other words, Allah was telling Muhammad, we're giving you Zainab so that if anyone else wants to marry their ex-wife, their son-in-law's ex-wife, then there'd be no issue. So you have to do this, Muhammad. You have to marry her so that others can do it in the future. That's chapter 33, verse 37 of the Quran. Now, some people at the very least, though, would say, just ignore all these things. At least Muhammad gave us a word. He might not have set the best example, but at least he knew where he was going to go in the afterlife. He was showing us the path to heaven. But, if I don't know the directions to a place, I can't go there.
Exactly.
If I don't know where I'm going, how am I going to tell people to follow me?
Yeah.
It's the blind leading the blind.
Yeah.
According to chapter 46, verse 9 of the Quran, Muhammad himself didn't know where he was going to go after this life. In chapter 46, verse 9, it says, say, I am not the first messenger ever sent, nor do I know what will happen to me, or you. I only follow what has been revealed to me, and I am only sent with a clear warning. What's the clear warning? No idea. But he said, I do not know what will happen to me or to you. Muhammad did not know. Contrast that with Jesus. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He promised.
Yeah.
The one who believes in me will live even though he dies.
Yeah.
And whoever believes in me will never die.
Yeah.
Muhammad is so different than Jesus. Jesus provides hope, but Muhammad was a pervert, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And he didn't give hope to a single person.
Yeah.
Now, we look at this, a prophet. The Quran identifies Muhammad as a false prophet. Actually, this is one of my favorite verses. Maybe you're familiar with this verse, Harry. But in the Quran, it actually tells us the way that Muhammad would die. Are you familiar with that?
How he died. He died
Yeah.
by someone like poison him, right?
Yeah. Now, actually, in the Quran, this is important that he died in the way that he did, because the Quran actually describes the way that Muhammad would die if he's a false prophet.
Yeah.
In chapter 69 of the Quran, it says, verse 44 through 46, had the messenger made up something in our name, we would have certainly seized him by his right hand and then severed his aorta. Aorta is a ventricle, I believe, in your heart, connected to your heart.
Yeah.
Now, according to, again, Sahih Muslim, it says that Anas reported the Jews came to Allah's messenger with poisoned mutton, just like you said, Harry.
Yeah.
And he took of that what had been brought to him. Allah's messenger did. When the effect of the poison were felt by him, he called for her and asked her about that. Whereupon she said, I had determined to kill you. Thereupon he said, Allah will never give you the power to do it. Sahih Muslim, book and hadith number. Book is 26, hadith numbers 5430. Now, they say Muhammad's a prophet, but this right here is evidence that he's not, because this woman's brought to Muhammad and he realizes that he's been poisoned. The Jewish woman, Zainab, she's different than the earlier mentioned Zainab, says she had had her husband killed, her father killed, her uncle killed, and so for that reason she poisoned the mutton that Muhammad was about to eat.
Yeah.
And Muhammad ate it, and once he realized that he'd been poisoned, he tells Zainab, Allah will never let you kill me. But Muhammad dies, so that right there is proof that he gave a false prophecy.
Yeah.
Apparently he didn't know Allah very well. This is actually about Muhammad's death. Do you want to read this?
Sure. Narrated Aisha, the Prophet in his ailment in which he died used to say, "O Aisha, I still feel the pain caused by the food I ate at Khyber, and at this time I feel as if my aorta is being cut from the poison." Sahih al-Bukhari 4428.
So, according to the Quran, you remember, how would Allah kill Muhammad if he made a false prophecy? He'd cut off his aorta. And then Muhammad, as he's dying, according to the most reliable hadith, Sahih Bukhari, Muhammad says, I still feel the pain caused by the food I ate. I feel as if my aorta is being cut. So who killed Muhammad? Not Zainab. Allah killed Muhammad. So that's a problem, a little bit of a problem. The Quran itself actually implodes once you investigate. Not only do you find the Quran is corrupt when you do a little bit of investigation, but when you push just a little bit, when you ask just a few questions about Muhammad, Muhammad himself crumbles. Islam falls apart when you ask some questions. Now, this isn't to get people stirred up in the wrong way, but I just want you to slow down for a second. Compare what we've learned about Muhammad to what we know about Jesus. Now, let's compare Jesus. Jesus claimed to be God and knew who sent him. In John 8:58, he talks about before Abraham was, I am. Those words, I am, for any Muslim listening, are important. I know I hear from Muslims all the time. Jesus never claimed to be God. But actually, you need to remember Jesus didn't speak English. If you just look in the Greek, if you look in the Aramaic, you'll learn that he claimed to be I am, and I am is very important. I am is the name that God told Moses is his name forever throughout all the generations. In Exodus chapter 3, verse 14, he said his name is I am, and Jesus claimed to be I am in John 8:58. Whereas Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl and married a 6-year-old, Jesus respected women. We see he defended Mary when the other people were questioning her for her pouring perfume on Jesus' feet in John chapter 12. We also see Jesus respecting the lowly while Muhammad had slaves. Jesus heals a leper in Matthew chapter 8. Whereas Muhammad, we're going to talk about this in the future, whether or not Islam's a religion of peace. Muhammad said to kill those who oppose Allah and crucify them. Jesus said to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Whereas Muhammad married his daughter-in-law, Jesus was sinless, and he was so sinless In John 8:46, we read that even to the people that opposed him, he said, "Who of you can prove any sin that I've done, can prove me wrong in any way?"
Yeah.
And no one could.
Yeah.
Jesus was above reproach.
Yeah.
And whereas, again, Mohammed didn't know where he was going after this life, Jesus made the promise. He said the statement, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live,
Yeah.
even though he dies."
Exactly.
Jesus stands alone. He stands above it all.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, at the age of Muhammad was like 52 plus when Jibril came, and he had no idea. But at the age of 12, Jesus knew what he was doing, right?
Yeah, so I believe it's 610 AD,
Yeah.
that's when Muhammad's claimed to be a prophet. At that time, Muhammad would have been about 30 years old.
Okay.
But yeah, he didn't know where he was going. He wanted to kill himself.
Yeah.
He thought he was demon possessed, and actually his pagan wife Khadijah,
Khadija.
convinced him that he wasn't. Instead, he was inspired. Now that's something. You have to be convinced by your pagan idol worshipping wife that you're a prophet. But that's the story. Again, we're not sharing you every hadith.
Yeah.
If we shared every hadith about Muhammad, this would go on for hours.
Exactly.
But these are some of the ones that we should get started, because there are even worse ones you can read. But anyways, we want to give two messages at the very end here.
Yeah.
We didn't share all this just so that you can, if you're a Christian, go away and just think bad about Muslims and think how deceived they are and how much you hate them. And we don't want to give you ammunition to go and start, shooting at them with arguments and starting fights with them. Not that. But we want to show you the deception that is present in Islam to inspire you to pray for Muslims and give you the courage to ask them questions, to be intentional about sharing the gospel with them and making friendships with them so that you can ask these questions. And again, as we brought up in, I believe it was one of the earlier podcasts, one of the best ways you can do that is invite them to read the Injil, read the New Testament.
Yeah.
Actually, the Quran commands that they read the New Testament. And so that's one of the best things you can do is get them to start reading, challenge them to read.
Yeah.
In chapter 5, verse 47, it commands them to. Chapter 5, it commands them to. And it also says that the New Testament came from Allah.
Yeah.
One simple way that I like to start these conversations is I just ask them, I say, "Do you like movies?" And the holy ones say, "No, I don't watch movies." But they're lying. Whatever, everyone watches movies.
Exactly.
But I ask them, okay, khair, if you just forget all that, if you were watching a movie and that movie was in 7 parts, which part would you watch first? Obviously the first part.
Yeah.
Second, third, and that's where I encourage them. That's why I wanted to read the Torah, the Old Testament,
Yeah.
the Zabur, the Psalms, and the Injil, the New Testament. Because after that, then you'll understand what this is saying. So, again, to the Christian, we want to encourage you, pray for Muslims and be intentional about friendships and sharing the gospel with them.
Yeah.
And to the Muslim, we both want to say, we didn't say this to slander you today,
Yeah.
but we love you enough to tell you what your Maulana is not telling you.
Exactly.
Run from Islam. Come to Jesus. Jesus says, it says in John 3:16, God so loved the world, he gave his one and only son. Whoever believes in him will live, even though he dies. Muhammad never gave this promise, but it is given in the New Testament. And so we want to say to Muslims, repent and come to Jesus. And in this whole episode, we've been giving you references from the Islamic sources. Write those references down. Go look. Do an investigation. You only live once and you won't have another chance after that. So investigate these things that we've talked about. Next week, we're actually going to be talking about something. We'll be back on the subject of the Bible, or about lessons from the Bible. We're going to talk about a life of significance. What motivates and guides it from a biblical perspective. So we'll be back on that subject next week, and I look forward to going through it with you all. Thanks so much, and God bless. Hey, if you like these videos, please like, subscribe, and share so that it can reach more people and have more of an impact. Thanks so much for listening, and God bless.